It's the sick show. It's the sick show.
It's the sick show.
You'll hear it where you're where you're on the mic and when you're not on the mic. Have you podcasted before?
I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
Nice. What have you been on?
I actually want to do one. It never aired, and it was called the Patriotic Podcast.
Yeah.
And it was a podcast from my buddy in California, and he's more than a buddy. He's like a brother.
Yeah.
But he's a veteran.
Yep.
He was an Army fister. And
What is that?
they're forward observers, and they call for fire.
Okay.
They're
I got you.
badasses. So you have to be to be an Army fister. You have to be able to do land nav,
Yep.
like, and not just like, okay, let's go here, whatever. Like, you're like on the fucking move. Like,
Yeah.
you have to know your shit. You could really get yourself lost, or you can get your boys in trouble. And then you have to be able to do you have to be able to do like engineering style math like that,
Okay.
and not blow your own people up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so they're not people that just go in and kind of observe from afar. They get up like pretty fucking close, and do recon and then call for fire. And so
In my head, I'm thinking about there was a movie with Clint Eastwood where he was the drill sergeant, and the guys had to like match his shirts and all this shit all the time. Hamburger Hill, maybe.
it sounds.
And they were like a recon unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's something similar or not. You know, as close as I got to being in the military was MEPS,
Okay.
the last MEPS physical, and I had blown out both of my ankles the week before playing basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and they looked like your tattoos on your arms. They were about those colors on both of them, and they were swollen about the size of a kneecap, and I got sent away. That's as close as I got to the military.
So the best way to kind of describe a fister is they literally do everything. They build shit. They blow shit up. They do land nav. They do math on the fly. They ride with tanks. They kind of get they get attached to all kinds of different groups, like rangers, and they are just kind of the ones that get called like to do excuse me a number of different things. But their main job is to do land nav and call for fire, like, without blowing their own people up. But they do ground shit. They do infantry style stuff, and part of their job is recon as well. But that's just a small part of what they do.
Kind of the utility knife in a way, out in front of everybody. And
well, I guess, but their main job is to call for fire.
okay,
So they have all kinds of other things that they end up doing too.
sure.
Man,
Sounds
I can't
like
find this picture.
Incredible skill set.
Yeah. Not everybody can be a fister for sure.
Yeah.
um,
I visualize when I'm hearing stories like that. I visualize, and I try and place it into my life experience, and I think about those guys I grew up with that could freaking do everything. And Shane Perry was a kid that grew up in the neighborhood. That guy could do skateboard tricks. He could get on a snowboard in the winter. He could do tricks on bikes. He could ride a dirt bike. He could play basketball. He was a hell of a sprinter and a decent football
he
player.
was an amazing football player.
Yeah,
I played football with Shane.
He's a great football player. So, I mean, all these different things he could do. It's like, what?
Well, Shane is a great example of an amazing person. Like,
He is.
Not only was he a great like student athlete, and just pretty much whatever he wanted to do, he joined the military.
Yep.
And he's an amazing
Artistic, too.
an American
So artistic as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shane and I met. We met playing football, but we ended up becoming friends.
Really?
My freshman year, we both got a job at the parks department.
Okay.
And I worked there with Shane, and it was like, I mean, we played football together, and I was a freshman, he was a senior. So, like, it's one of those situations where you're just kind of a little peon, you're a senior, freshman, but Shane never treated me like that. And so we started working together, and we were like immediately best friends. Like, it's one of those things where I kind of felt like our friendship existed far beyond this realm. Like, like we were friends in another life or something, or brothers or something, because like we were just tight, dude. It's crazy to say that too, because we would just be like out working. We got in trouble, and so we got put on shit duty, which is better than getting fired, but we got put on shit detail, and we'd be out working and talking like Australians, and we would finish each other's sentences. And I had some of the most fun with Shane in the shortest period of time, that, like a summer. And he came back after, his basic training for just a little bit. We hung out, and that was it. And like, I stay in touch with Shane, from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But most recently, I kind of reconnected with Shane, and he's going to be here this month.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
At the end of this month, he'll be here. But my dad is dating Shane's mom.
I've been doing this for a little over a year now, and it's really interesting to me. Sonny, we don't know each other that well,
Not really.
but on the fringes of our lives,
We've touched.
we have the same circles.
Absolutely.
It's so bizarre to me how many times this has happened. I had Ted Cluck in here, he was on Google Meet, and Ted was somebody I didn't know. I knew who he was. He was younger than me as well, and I think he's a couple years older than you, maybe. And to find out how close our circles were,
Oh yeah,
and how much we had in common,
big time,
was so bizarre. So we ended up meeting and having coffee when he was up here to see his folks, and just sitting down for like an hour and a half, chit chatting over coffee up at Katie's place, and just hanging out, man.
So Shane, you guys
Yes,
were.
we grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, exactly, and that's crazy, man. Like, far beyond Shane, like torqued, 7 circles, and cuffed.
It's so
cuffed up,
right?
Like, we were all doing like you because 7 circles. We were all a band. Like, Circle of Silence was happening at that time. My band. And then you had your band, Cuffed Up.
Yep.
And then there was Torque. They were right on the. They were getting ready. They were on the outs of their, their playing time, but not 7 circles.
Right.
Not Cuffed Up. How long were you guys a band?
We were only a band 6 months.
See, that's crazy. We were only a band for. We made it about a year, maybe 10 or 11 months. Bro, I don't know if you know this, but Circle of Silence, we got offered a record contract.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that was a big thing back then. Now you don't have to, but back then that was huge.
Absolutely. It was massive. We got discovered on GarageBand.com. Some random agent in New York heard our shitty open air fucking mic recording. And that's how we recorded everything.
Yeah.
We would put a mic in,
just drop a mic
in the open air in the middle of the room and record because we would just do free flow. Like, I've never worked with a group of guys that vibed like Circle of Silence did. When we originally started, it was me, Jeremy Stone, Dustin Osborne, our keyboardist, his name was Jim Olson, Jonathan Mitchell, and Lee Hausman. So we had 2 drummers, right?
Right.
Jim was our keyboardist, and he played, multiple keyboards and a sampler and all kinds of shit, right? Um, but Lee and Jonathan never they never really jived together, right? And one of them had to give up the lead role. And what ended up happening was Lee was the weaker drummer, and we wanted him to play rhythm, and it just didn't work out, and so I had to get rid of him. He was my best friend. So that was one of the hardest things that I had to do then.
That's
You know
tough,
what I mean?
man. That's tough.
And it was one of those things where I wanted a band that was going to be like a superstar,
Yeah.
like organization, right? And so after we squared that away and got him out of the band, like I think we were together maybe 6 months, 7 months, and we got an offer to,
That's awesome.
and so we we were smart about it. We had an attorney look it over. We're like, tell us this is legit,
Right.
and it was. He said this is all good. Like there's no like hidden clauses or anything other than like they want to fly you guys out to New York. They want to put you up in a hotel. They want to record your album, but you have to go out and sell it. And they weren't offering any money up front
Okay.
for us to go out there. And Jeremy, he was laid off at the time work, and he was being a stay at home dad, take care of the kids and stuff. And he's like, dude, I can't leave my family. If they're not offering us any money up front to help me here, I can't do it. And so we had to turn it down essentially. But it was one of the coolest things that I wish I would have saved the contract. I used to have it. I don't know what happened to it. But I promise you, dude, like it legitly
a wall piece, man.
Yeah. And at the time, I'm like, I'm pursuing my career as a tattoo artist. So like, yeah, one of my dreams was to be a musician, to be a singer, but right now I'm living one of my dreams as a tattoo artist. So why am I gonna,
Yeah.
And I thought I had it saved in my archives of stuff, but I've moved all over the country, and clearly I've lost it.
It's so interesting 'cause, hearing that about Jeremy. That resonates so much with me, and kind of what you're saying too was, my dream was to be a husband and a father. That's what that was number one for me. I want to be a superstar dad more than I want to be a superstar singer. And when things started to go south with Cuffed, it was just a decision. I had a good job that I enjoyed. I was repoing cars at the time, collecting and repoing cars. I enjoyed what I was doing. It paid well. It afforded us a lifestyle that allowed me to play music as well, and kind of develop Cuffed as a brand, which is what we were doing.
Right.
Websites. We were on GarageBand. We were recording the EP, and within 6 months we were zeroed. So everything we'd invested into the band, we'd gotten back in 6 months, and we had like 200 CDs sitting waiting to be sold.
That's awesome.
And things just fell apart.
That's the one thing that we never had. We never had CDs. We never. We had our brand developed. Like we didn't really have like a super amazing solid logo yet, but we had a presence, and part of it was me.
That's such an important part. That means more than all the others.
It does. And she was like our booking agent. And she had went through she went to college for that kind of stuff, right? Well, her and our drummer got involved romantically, and she stopped doing her job for us. So essentially, I was like, look, like I appreciate what you did for us, but I'm just gonna go promote ourselves, and I'm gonna go book all of our shows. And I went out and I booked a bunch of shows, dude. We a couple of times we had a couple of shows a night. We had like 2 shows a night. we went to this battle of bands, and it was our second show, and we got there. We got there on time, but they forgot about us or something, and so
Which is typical.
right, and so it was our turn to play, and the band before they let the band before us play like 2 extra songs or whatever, and so yeah, and we only got to play, I think it was like 2 or 3 songs at this battle of the bands, which if you're talking about, you know, heavy songs, you're only talking about maybe, you know, 9 to 12 minutes, right?
Absolutely.
For 3 songs. And I had a wireless mic, and I was all about that, dude. I would go out with the crowd and mosh with them and just get them hyped up and stuff. Well, this Battle of the Bands was an outdoor venue, and I ended up jumping up on like this railing because it was like this deck over in Kokomo. I can't remember what it was,
Okay.
like the Cabana Club, or it was like it was palm and like tiki themed.
Okay.
I can't remember what the hell the name of the place was, but there was like it was like, you know, ramps coming up everywhere on the stage and stuff, and I ended up jumping up on one of the banisters and just like I was like throwing my hand up in the air, and I had the crowd into it, and like everybody that was still there, there was probably between 45 and 50 people that were still there because it was getting kind of late, right?
Sure.
They were all up, they were all jumping, they were all screaming, just having a blast. And they told us that, you know, it was it, like after our third song. And I actually like rallied the crowd, and they wanted to hear another song, but they wouldn't let us play.
Right.
And we advanced to the second round of this Battle of the Bands. I mean, we actually broke up before we got to do the second.
Oh my God.
But we were a force to be reckoned with, man. Like we would just get together and you know, we would build songs. Like I said, we had an open air mic, and we would build songs by just jamming together, and we had such a cohesive flow. It was almost untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
And we one of my favorite things that we would do is we would go out at a show, and we would just do a free flow song.
I love
We
it.
would not, it wouldn't be scripted. We wouldn't, it wouldn't be anything. Like sometimes it would be something, maybe a riff that Worm started,
Yep.
you know, but really it was just right off the top of our head, and it would go
Just a
anywhere
jam.
from 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And people would just be into it, dude. It was such a great feeling. Like, but like I said, we didn't have a bunch of merch or CDs or anything, but we had a pretty big following.
Yeah.
And I called them the Silence Alliance.
I like it.
Kind of like Slipknot called,
Yeah.
you know, there's maggots.
Yeah.
But I wanted to create something more than just a band. I wanted to create something that people could be a part of.
It's a culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like tattooing.
Yep.
It's not just about, oh, you want this tattoo or you want this tattoo. Like you're developing a relationship with that person, with multiple peoples, right? Same thing when you're doing music. You're developing a relationship
Absolutely.
with a massive group of people. And it's different than connecting with somebody and tattooing them, but you're still sending out a vibration that people resonate with, and they're drawn to it, you know? And it's important to have that kind of stuff, not just be a dry piece of toast.
Right. Right there. Yeah, so as you're telling that story, I was thinking about the number of times I've had people approach me or send me messages. You know, once I release some of Cuff's music out on to YouTube, I've had people messaging me going, "Oh man, do you have a copy of Circles?" And we had a song in the band Bucket called Circles that
That's right. You were in Bucket
I was in
too.
Bucket. Yeah.
Dude.
So
And you guys played at Heritage Days a lot, man.
yeah, a couple years in a row. Actually, we played on the night I was married.
I remember, dude. I remember that show, bro. I remember, dude. Like sometimes I have a hard time when I come back, since I've come back.
Yeah.
recognizing people and remembering people, but you just made me fully remember who you are right there.
That's
know?
interesting.
Because I remember that day is burnt in my head. I don't know, like I think you guys got there just a little bit late that night, and you were like, "Sorry guys, I just got married."
That's it.
And
That's it right there.
it was one of the. I remember it being one of the greatest things, and I'm like, "That's what I want to do. Like, I want to captivate a crowd, an audience."
It's an amazing. I'm getting chills just thinking about
Yeah,
it.
dude, me too. Like, it's lifeblood, dude.
The year before we were on the other side. So the year before we were on the west side of the square, and then in '97 we were on the south side of the square,
Yep,
right
I
on
remember.
right in front of the courthouse.
I remember.
And in '96, I did a backward stage dive off of our speaker stack.
I heard about that. I didn't
And-
see that.
Like, you talk about just a leap of faith. You know, I'm 200 pounds at that time. I'm 250 now, but like at that time, I was 200 pounds. I might have been 220. And I just turned around and fell off the back of the speakers, hoping I'd get caught. And I got caught, man. Like, I got carried around.
Trust
And
fall.
it was definitely a trust fall. But you build that culture. And with Bucket, we certainly had a culture of followers that
You did.
that came around and followed us all over the place, and we played a lot. We had a lot of fun. That band was a great learning experience for me.
Guys were talked about a lot.
It built a lot of confidence in me because I wasn't a confident singer. I was petrified to get out and sing. And when I sit down with Mike Wine a while back, he was talking about how, man, you would stand there at band practice for like 2 hours and not get on the mic, and you were our singer. And then finally I did, and I just started building some confidence. And
Yeah.
you know, to that point of you're going out there and putting your own stuff in front of people, you know, like what you're doing with tattoos as well, and with your music. When you're putting your own thing out there in front of someone,
It's yourself.
it's a leap of faith.
You're 100%
Absolutely.
putting all of you
Yeah.
out in front of everyone to be judged. And I don't think of it like that. You know how some people are like, I can only do it if I imagine people in the audience are naked.
Yeah, I didn't do that either.
I never did that
No.
either.
I didn't want to see any of them naked. There were a few.
But you know, like that's the kind of thing, you know, like I think anybody can do anything. I want to start off by saying that I believe that inside all of us is the same ability,
Incredible potential,
and the same potential, and absoluteness of anyone, that anybody could do anything. Because if you can learn how to ride a bike, if you can learn how to drive a car, if you can learn how to play the guitar or any instrument, why is that any different than being able to draw or something like that?
Right.
Like, or whatever it is, you know? Like, I believe that inside all of us is the greatness and the potential to be anything that we want to be.
Do you also believe, though, that there is a heightened sense of each of those? So, what I'm saying is, I literally just released a podcast about multiple intelligence theory. And it's this guy named Howard Gardner believes there's 8 different intelligences, and there's art and math and spatial and kinesthetic and all these others. And as I went through that podcast, I was explaining each one, and I was thinking about, shit, I possess all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them just really shine through.
Absolutely.
So I think, like, what you're saying is, we have all these skills, we have all this potential.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones are really going to shine through for some people?
Right. And as far as, like, you know, having, you know, all those skills, like, or like that guy said, you know, there's 8 or 9.
8, yeah. At least he thinks there's 8.
I feel like it's one thing kind of encompassed, you know, and you can't really, I mean, you can label it, you know, you could label it out 8 different things, but I believe that everything starts, it's a form of art. like the Fibonacci sequence,
Mm-hmm.
the golden ratio, it creates everything from a spiral that spirals out and continues.
Yeah, not to
Create
get too
and create.
lyrical, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. So as that starts to spin inside of you, thinking about the visual piece of it, as that starts to spin out, it's like all those other 8 intelligences
Absolutely.
get picked up, and you're utilizing each one.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, there's one that really, for some folks, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think what we have to realize, and what I've learned in my experience, and everybody's is different, me overcoming fear has been the biggest skill I've had to develop.
Oh yeah.
I was just petrified of trying at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because what if you fail?
Absolutely.
But failure is the greatest teacher.
So is. But you got to go through that to find it.
You have to be brave enough to stand with your fear so that you can step on the other side
Yes,
of it.
sir.
Because on the other side of that fear, most of the time is the greatest experience that you've ever had to that point. And that's not to say that it's the greatest experience that you'll ever have. But once you're brave enough to just step past that fear, that stops so many people from shining. Because listen, man, I'm a firm believer that we are all a light, and some of us shine brighter than others, because the ones that shine brighter than others are the ones that aren't afraid, so afraid that they won't go past that fear, and when we go through that dark spot, you know what I'm saying, and there's not a pinhole of light, but we just keep going because there's no quit in you, because on the other side of winning is losing, and if you don't get up, then what are you doing,
Right.
like, I'm sure you've been through some hard stuff, dude. I've been through some things that would break just anyone, I've had a lot of demons sent to destroy me, and they haven't done it yet.
That's right.
I'm a light, dude.
Yeah.
And we all are.
Yeah.
And as long as we believe in something on the other side of that fear, the people that believe are the ones that are gonna step past it.
Yep.
And I believe in you, dude. And I believe in anybody I see out on the street. Like, that's why I believe in this country still.
Oh man.
That's why I believe in America. That's why I believe
What
in
an amazing
brotherhood.
place.
That's why I believe in unity, dude.
Yep.
The love that our country has for what we have has kind of been darkened, and we're all afraid right now. And there are a lot of people that can't see that light, that pinhole.
Do you think we convince ourselves that it is? Because I get what you're saying, but if I turn off the TV and social media, and I just spend my time with my neighbors, with my family, with the people that I see in the community, man, there's a lot of great things happening around.
There is.
And I don't see all the dumb shit that's being pushed out there. A friend of mine, his house just burnt, and he was talking about how, just the community outreach, his class reunion was this past weekend. This house had burnt like 4 days ahead of it. And when he gets there, there's a card and all this money that people had generated to help him get through. Man, that didn't show up on the news. The only part that would have showed up on the news would have been the fire.
Yeah.
The bad part.
Oh, this family's been decimated.
Right? But dude,
which they have.
You're right. But
when you
then look at the uplift that comes in behind it.
Right. They don't talk about that.
Not enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, I think we are so overwhelmed with the negative because it sells.
And not only that, because that's the focal point right now.
Sure.
It's like a laser right now. and it's pointed, it's directed, right now. It's fear.
Yep.
It's be scared all the time, and uh, unless I'm at the tattoo shop and we listen to Pandora, so there's not a lot of commercials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while there'll be one or whatever. But even with like TV and stuff, I I I've started this journey a couple of years ago, the spiritual journey, and once I started doing that kind of stuff and practicing mindfulness and practicing what I speak, the words that I say to myself,
Mm-hmm.
and the words that I say about other people, maybe not out loud, but in my head, like you cut me off and I'm like cussing you out in my head. Like I stopped myself from doing that kind of stuff.
I love
and
it.
that's really hard. But once I started doing that, I started noticing everything in media, like on social media, on TV, on the radio, like the ads were all like negatively based and like fear based, and that's even like when you listen to music, like popular music now, it's all real sad. It's not just sad, it's depressing, and it's um the message that it's putting out there is fear, fear, fear. Everything is so like directed at fear and being scared. um, it's hard for me to listen to the radio and to watch TV
Mm.
because all that stuff is happening. Turn the TV off, turn social media off, turn the radio off. All these things are still happening, you know? But what if we started focusing on positive things,
100%.
Like we live in a world right now that is so geared towards a box that's filled with hate and lies and depression and pain and fear and no and don't and you can't. But imagine if we broke that box open, and let all that stuff let all that stuff go, and we build a new box of love and gratitude and hope and yes.
That's it.
Like, what a different world that we would live in, and that's really my message, honestly, is like, even though it's hard to find something to be grateful for right now, there's a whole lot of stuff
There's so much
to be grateful for, man.
So much.
Like, I opened my eyes today. I breathed
that's
in air today. I got to see the birds and the trees and the clouds. And dude, I'll tell you what, man, since I've been back here in Indiana in Hartford City, it's been a blessing, dude. My cup is overflowing with gratitude and love and possibility, dude. Like, people keep asking me. They're like, "Dude, why'd you come back?"
Hmm.
I'm like, "Why'd you if you I mean, yeah, Indiana, but why'd you come back to Hartford City?" I'm like, "This is my home." Um for years I hated this place.
Sure.
Um I couldn't see what was great about Hartford City, what was great about Indiana, what was great about me.
Hmm.
I couldn't see any of those things. All I could see was the grass is greener on the other side. Somewhere else, the grass is better than it is here. And I grew up California dreaming. I went to North Carolina first, and then Arizona, and then to California. So, I finally made my way out there to California, and it wasn't what I thought it was. I mean, I met some amazing people out there, man. Some really, really beautiful souls that I consider my family. Um, but the whole time that I was out, I was looking for my forever home because it wasn't here.
Mhm.
It wasn't Hartford City. It wasn't Indiana, And everywhere I went, it was the same thing, This is kind of a nice place. I like it, there are jerks everywhere you go, right? There are terrible people everywhere
Sure
you go.
there are.
But
Yeah.
there were a lot of really great people in all the places that I went,
Hmm.
But what I finally realized, after hearing so many stories after stories of, man, this is my old homie here. We went to school together. We went to, kindergarten and came all the way up, played football. I have all those stories here,
That's right.
but I didn't have any relatability really to these people that I was there with, which is, I did because I had those same experiences, but it wasn't the same, and I realized that I missed that. And I realized that all along I've been looking for my forever home, and it was right here.
It was right here the whole
It
time.
was, dude.
It's really interesting. 'Cause I kind of had that same wanderlust. It's got to be better somewhere else.
Right.
And who knows? Maybe it is. I don't have enough experience to know if it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I moved away for 3 years. Went down to Madison, Indiana. I was an assistant principal down there at a junior high, and it was really interesting to see another small Indiana town that was very much like where I'd lived before. But now I was an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was an outsider, I was very welcomed into that community. And it was interesting to see, at least in the circles I was familiar with, I felt very welcomed. I'm sure there were some people who are like, I don't like Mr. Schick. He's an asshole, blah, 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 right? You kick my kid out of school, whatever. But justifiably, just so you know. But I felt very welcomed. Everywhere I went, it felt open armed. And that was something I'd always experienced here. I never hated Hartford City. Never had I can't wait to get out of Blackford County. I wanted to go other places. I wanted to experience other communities, other states, other cultures. But I knew how much love I'd had for this community growing up here. I had a great experience here, man. It was always great to me, and leaving, I think, was a surprise to a lot of people because I had a great experience.
Right.
I am a big promoter of Hartford City and Blackford County, and me leaving was a growth thing.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to grow.
Yeah, contrast, man.
I had gotten as much out of that experience at that time that I could possibly get.
Yeah.
It was time to go somewhere else and be no one.
Evolution, baby.
Yeah. And so moving to Madison, I found out that I could be, I decided, like, I made a decision. I wasn't going to change who I am. I am who I am, and I'm not going to change that no matter what role I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I am who I am. And if it's not good enough, that's fine. But it's good enough for me. It's good enough for my family. And it's good enough for the circle of people that I love, know, and trust. And that's all that matters. And I found out I could go be myself anywhere and still have that same great feeling of, that's a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I was being who I am.
Absolutely.
And that helped me grow by going down there. It helped me grow tremendously. My confidence once again went up. And I've said on my show before that I struggled with confidence in myself for a long time, and I still do. I mean, we all have that internal battle going on.
Yeah, we beat ourselves up.
Oh, dude,
We're our own worst enemy.
I'm my biggest critic. It's terrible. And you were talking about that positive talk. Maybe 5-6 years ago,
You got to be your own best cheerleader, dude.
Yeah, I stopped listening to the radio, and all I started doing was I went and I started seeking out, and it might have been longer than that. I started seeking out positivity.
You got to, man. You got to find gratitude
Oh,
because it's
dude,
there.
It's there.
It's so there. It's
Eric-
hard to see it sometimes.
There was a guy, he's called Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a guy
I
who,
think I know what you're talking
you know what
about.
I'm talking about? He's all over YouTube.
Uh-huh.
He goes and speaks all these different sports teams all over the world. And I started listening to him, like, bought in. I'm like, all right. And then I would find another motivational person, just another motivational.
Yeah.
And It got to the point where I translated that to my classroom. I was teaching social studies at the time, and the kids would want to watch like a fail video. I said, I don't watch fail videos. I'd stopped watching fail videos. It's funny to watch somebody wreck.
It is.
I get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Like if I do something dumb, I laugh at myself.
Mhm.
But I also realized that it trains our brain.
Yeah.
And when they wanted to watch these fail videos, I said, why don't we watch some win videos? And we started seeking out win videos and
Yeah.
people doing incredible things
Yeah.
and being successful at them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really important transition for not only me, but for them, especially for young people, to
Absolutely.
start thinking success orientation rather than fail orientation.
Oh yeah.
So, man, just knowing that, like hearing you talk about going after that positivity in life, finding that,
Seek it, dude.
it's so important.
It is.
Junk in, junk out.
Yeah, because if all you take in is negative stuff, eventually that's all you're gonna see.
That's it.
It's the internet has made it the easiest to understand this. It's an algorithm, and even though AI creates an algorithm, our brains are smarter and faster than any AI. Okay. And our brain creates an algorithm. And so for everybody who has a hard time understanding outside of what we take in, it's an algorithm. Everything that we take in, everything that we take in influences us. And people say that it don't, but it does. It absolutely 100% does. And this is like sort of my new theory, right? They say there are two wolves. There's the good wolf, there's the bad wolf. And you feed the good wolf good stuff and good thoughts. Or you feed the bad wolf bad thoughts and bad stuff, right? Which wolf is going to win out?
That's right.
But I don't believe that. I believe there's one wolf, dude.
Okay.
I believe that there is one wolf, and you feed that wolf either good, positive things. And your wolf will protect you. Your wolf takes care of you. Your wolf becomes the leader of the pack that you end up building for yourself, right? Or you become the lone wolf and you feed it negativity and you feed it doubt and you feed it fear. And whichever food that you feed, whatever you feed your wolf is going to be the way that you see the world. And it's like, I just, like, they say there's two wolves, but it's really one wolf, man.
Do you think that comes off of the angel and devil thing?
I absolutely do.
That's an old pagan. It comes from pagan mythology and stuff like that. But that's what I was seeing and hearing from you. But I'm with you. I think you can look at it both ways.
Oh yeah, it was like the
Just
is your
interpretation.
is your cup half empty or half
Bingo,
full?
there it is, brother.
What?
Yeah.
Let me ask you. What is your cup half empty or half
Mine's
full?
always half full.
Okay.
Always. And if it's not half full, it's usually overfilling because I've been blessed. Now, to be where I'm at right now, I never imagined my life being what my life is. I have so over, I've overcame my own self. I don't know how it's happened, but I think it's because I continue to push myself. I continue to seek out the better me. And I didn't always do that. But once I got intentional about seeking out best self and being aware of that, when someone said to me, you can be unstoppable, you can overcome, it's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah.
We're able to get up and do pretty much what we want on a daily basis. And I've got a book up there on my shelf. It's called Unstoppable.
Oh yeah, dude.
And there was a guy I heard of a convention years ago, and I can't remember his name now, but he had some sort of debilitating physical, like cerebral palsy of some sort, and he could barely walk, and he was unemployable. Ends up getting a job as like a Fuller Brush salesman, like a door-to-door salesperson. And they said, man, we don't think you're going to be able to do this, blah, blah, blah. The guy ends up becoming the salesman of the year for the company in the country year after year in his 60s.
The power of thought is beyond comprehension.
He decided,
dude.
man. He decided He decided he could.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't going to be anyone that was going to tell him he couldn't. That moved me at that point in my life. I needed someone to move me in some way. And hearing that guy and hearing that story, reading about it was a motivator for me. 20 plus, 20, going on 30 years ago, 27 years ago ish. And that one story that moved my life forward to start this path that I'm on now. Um, I honest to God, I thought I was going to be dead. You know, I thought I was going to be dead at some point. And I slept with, I had a parking meter in my room that said time expired. I would play the end to go to sleep. And I had aces and eights on my mirror, on my Budweiser mirror that I had in my room. And didn't really have much hope in what my life was going to be. Didn't really
I think we've all been there at some point.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad that you found the other side of that. You know,
I am too.
And like uh, I- I'm neither a glass half empty or glass half full kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I have a glass,
All right.
you know, and so whether my glass is half empty or half full, I'm grateful to have a glass,
Yeah.
you know. And just like you said, dude, when I started doing my spiritual journey, my spiritual walk, I had to my old self had to die.
Hmm.
You know, there was, and for anybody that, you know, it's like, oh yeah, whatever, your old self had to die. How is that possible? It's what is called as an ego death.
Hmm.
And so that part of you that was that negative thing is gone.
It's
And
interesting
for
to hear it
me,
that way.
right, for me, the way that I found um the way that I realized how special I was and how much potential I really had, and that I was a light. I found forgiveness, dude.
Hmm.
And the greatest thing about forgiveness is forgiveness doesn't come from any person. Say I did you dirty in some way, shape, or form, right? And I know this is going to sound weird, but the only way is, say I apologize to you and you're like, I forgive you. Okay. But what if I never forgive myself?
Bingo.
So
Yeah.
so when I say forgiveness doesn't come from any person, it has to come from you.
Has to come
So
from within.
regardless of whether that person that you've wronged, whether I tell you I'm sorry or not, if I've forgiven myself, obviously I need to go the step further and tell you, hey, I'm sorry. And at that point, whether you accept my apology or not does not matter, because I have forgiven myself. And until we can forgive ourselves, truly forgive ourselves, then forgiving anybody else is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, when I found forgiveness, bro, I was driving, okay, and I'm driving down the road to work. I literally had to pull my car over to the side of the road because I was bawling my eyes out. I wasn't just, oh man, I'm crying a little bit. I can see through the tear.
Right.
I was crying like a little kid, like
Yeah.
and it wasn't a painful cry. It was one of the most beautiful, uplifting feelings that I've ever had in my life. And the weight that I was carrying around of all that guilt and all that pain, and I realized that it was gone, you know. And then after that, I also came to the realization that everything that's ever happened to me in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, was all on me.
Hmm.
That there was nobody else to blame for anything that had happened to me except me.
Did you ever listen to Suicidal Tendencies?
Uh-huh.
One of my favorite Mike Muir quotes was, "If your life sucks, you suck. Life's what you make of it."
It is.
And when we heard that in our teens and 20s, it was like,
A
oh,
different interpretation
that's
too.
a cool quote, man.
Yeah.
life sucks. You suck. They
No,
must suck.
We looked at it completely
Oh.
different.
And you hear that, or you at least think about it, you reflect on it later on, and you go, man, that's so true. It's so real. We have to work on ourselves.
Words matter.
Oh, dude.
They really, really do. One of the greatest quotes that I've ever heard is, the more whole or holy. Sorry, wait a minute. Let me think about this real quick. The more wholeness you experience, the more whole or holy you become.
Mm.
And that's a word that I just used 3 different ways, and it's spelled 3 different ways.
Yeah.
So holy is WHOLLY, right?
That'd be, yeah, HOLY. Yeah.
And then you have
Whole.
WHOLE,
Yeah,
right?
being
And then you
whole.
have HOLY.
Yeah.
So all 3 are different spellings, and they all mean a slightly different thing. And that's why I say words matter, because the things that we say to ourselves, first of all, where does that come from? It comes from our upbringing. It comes from our past. It comes from the TV that we watch. It comes from the radio that we listen to. Because when you speak to yourself, most of the time you're not like, oh, great job. You're so awesome. Man, I can't believe you just did that. That's so exceptional. How can I do that again and get that? You're like, God, you dumbass. What the fuck did you just do?
It.
That's the stupidest. You're so stupid, and that's the kind of stuff that we say to ourselves. And then we end up saying that kind of stuff to other people. And before we realize it, some things you can take back, but some things you can't take back.
There are some things you cannot take back.
Some words resonate and stick with people.
Yeah.
And I never want to be, I know I have,
Sure.
but I never want to be the reason that somebody stops doing something because they thought it was cool. Because I didn't, so I try to let my kid, it's hard sometimes, but I try to let my kids make their own mistakes and live the way that they want to. Obviously, I'm a dad, so I try to be a good dad and not let them like hurt themselves or, do something silly. But it's some of the hardest things that we do is, even with ourselves, is let go and just let things happen and see how the cards fall.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have a plan and let it unfold, even if you don't feel like it's going the way that you want.
You know as well as I do, though, that is very difficult.
So hard,
for
dude.
many people.
Yeah.
And to not have plan Z figured out. And that's where Jennifer and I are very different people in that way. She needs a plan, a very well thought out and sketched out plan. And I am, man, that seems like a really good idea. I can see how that can be an incredible result. Here we go.
Let's do it.
And she's, hold on a minute. But it's good to have that grounding as well. But I am a, like I said, I'm a glass half full guy. That's who I am. And I'm going to see the bright side.
Absolutely.
In what I'm chasing. And I'm thankful that she has been a grounding rod for me because I need that.
We do.
I need that desperately.
We're free, dude. We're free up here, and it makes us want to be free in everything that we do. And like you, dude, like I fly by the seat of my pants most of the time.
I'm just going for it.
Yeah. I'm scared. Like, I believe you me. Okay. When I get ready to go do something that I've never done before, I am literally shitting my pants, like emotionally and like mentally up here. Like, I'm like, oh my God.
Right.
But also in that mixed in with that fear is, you got this.
Yeah.
There is no other option. And guess what? If you fall down, you're gonna get back
You're
up.
gonna get back
and you're gonna
up.
do it again.
Right.
And you're gonna do it again. It doesn't matter, because you can fail 1,000 times, but the 1,001st time, 1,002nd time is
That's it.
your win, dude.
That's it.
And that's the difference between a winner and a loser is they fail once or 5 times or even 10, and they're like, oh, the world's against me. There is no American dream. There
There's
is
that
no
negative
dream.
self-talk
Yeah,
again.
yeah, because somebody didn't get their dream, and they were like, "See, I told you."
Yeah.
Like there is no it doesn't exist, but it does exist. I
exist.
believe, bro, up here, like in my brain, when I say something, I believe it.
Yeah.
100%. I'm not like, you know what, I think this, like, and I say I have to stop myself sometimes because I'm like, I think, and I'm like, no, I know, and that's the craziest part about knowing something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a huge
Once
difference
you
between
know,
knowing and believing.
once you know, but knowing is believing. Once you know, you can't unknow it.
Knowing's a whole nother level of belief. It's knowing.
Well,
You know what I'm like? We're saying the same thing.
you're right. It is. It's like,
It's just that next. I don't believe it anymore. I know it.
but listen, I mean, I know it sounds like it is more, but when you believe something, isn't it gospel? Isn't it truth?
I mean, I can believe that the sun's going to be out the rest of the day,
Right?
but I don't know it
Really? Why not?
because I'm also aware of weather change. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
But
like,
even if it's storming, the sun's still there.
it is still there, and I know that.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. I just think, for me, knowing is a whole nother level of belief because I gotta believe it, but I've got to have enough evidence. For me, there's got to be so much evidence for me to back that up and to have no doubt.
Mm.
Sometimes in belief, you can have 99%,
I'll
belief.
give you that.
but you still don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, there are things I just know it,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no doubt in my mind,
Mhm.
and there's nothing that can change it.
Right.
But there are things I believe where I'm like, I never thought about it that way, and my mind can be changed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's where I'm at with knowing and believing.
Right.
It's
Okay.
just a different way of looking at it. I think
Yeah.
we're on the same plane.
Right. No,
but
I understand what you're
I just
saying.
see it. Knowing to me is that ultimate. There is zero doubt.
Mm.
Where I could believe, and there could be a little bit of doubt.
Right. Mm.
Well, I can believe that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I get it.
There's different levels of it
There is.
from 1% to
True.
all the way to the top. But
Absolutely.
there are times when I believe somebody and I find out I'm wrong.
True. I
You
mean, like you can't discount the exception. All right.
Sure.
There's always the exception to the rule. But this is my thing. Since I've started my journey, and like I said, words matter. And so I look at words differently than I used to, right? And so when I look at belief now, when I say I believe something, I don't say it with a shred of doubt. Okay?
Okay.
If I say I think, then there's definitely some doubt that there could be a different possible outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that. But if I believe it, then I know it. I don't know how
you're coming
that
from.
my brain takes those two words and makes them the same thing. But when I believe something, I don't. It's absolute. It's an absolute knowing, I guess, is where I say believe. I believe this is because I absolutely know this.
I get that.
And so for me, because of where I am mentally, there's no room for doubt, right? Because bad stuff's gonna happen. We can't stop bad things from happening.
Sure.
We can't stop somebody from grabbing a gun and trying to shoot somebody,
Right.
climbing on top of a building and trying to shoot somebody. We can't stop a crazy person from going into a school and shooting it up. You know, we can't stop somebody from blowing up a building. You
Right.
know, we have no control
Right.
over those kind of things. But I choose to not focus on those negative things, right? Because those negative things exist. They're really,
Yep.
they're really, really out there. You
They
know?
are. Yeah, I'm with you. We're on the same page.
Yeah. I
Just
just
a little bit different way of looking at it.
it is, and that's what's great about that's what's great about it.
Yeah.
Is my journey has brought me to a place where I, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a family.
Yep.
I have a plan. I have goals. I have I have big goals. I have dreams. I have things that I want to do. I want to help this community. That's one of the reasons I came back to Hartford
Yes.
City is I want to be a big part
I want to get
of
into
Hartford
that.
City, man. I want to help. I want to be, like I said, I want to be a beacon. I want to be a light. I want to be somebody that, like, if Sonny Batten says that he's going to do something, if Sonny Batten says that, he wants to help, like, he's going to be there.
Yeah.
I want to be that person, not because I'm trying to make some kind of great social name for myself. I do it. I want to do it because it makes me feel good.
Right.
Because I choose to do something that, I want to take care of my family, right? Like I said. But where I'm at in my life, I'm not afraid of death. If something like that happens, like God forbid it happen, right?
Right.
But if it does, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Like that's where my spiritual path has kind of led me to now. Is I want to live for other people. I don't just want to do for me and my family. Of course I want my family to be taken care of and prosperous and not have to want for anything. But I also want to pay forward everything that any kindness anybody's ever shown me. There are wrongs out there that I'm going to make right because that's the person that I am.
Yeah.
Because I want to be that person, not because I have to be, because it makes me feel good about being who I am.
Sure. Sure. You get to live your life and make an imprint on someone else. And hopefully make their life a little better.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's just a pinch, kind of like what I was saying earlier about the guy's story in that book.
Yeah.
He made my life better. I don't think that was his intent. He didn't stop and go, "Oh yeah, you know what? I'm going to kick ass at this job so that I can eventually tell my story." And he didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a selfishness that comes into it first where you're like, "Okay, I got to do something for me now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to get myself into a place." You have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. And now I've used this quote a number of times that too often we take better care of our dogs than we take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to stop doing that. We've got to get to the
We
point
feel
where
unworthy. We feel like we
man,
don't deserve it,
it's
dude.
that negative self-talk
It
again.
is.
I think it's so important. You were so, like, I wanted to touch on this a minute ago, but you were like, "Oh, good job. Great job, buddy. That was awesome." We don't do that. We kick ass. And at the end of that ass kicking, we look around and we go,
I could have did this better.
"That was pretty good. But if I'd have done this, and this," and then we critique the shit out of it.
And then it's no longer a win in our head.
God, man.
We break it down. You like, and this is the other thing, people like, for instance, guys, but women too. Like, "Oh, you're so beautiful." Oh, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
take that
Oh, man,
compliment.
our
Like,
ability to take a
you
compliment.
are an amazing person. Thank you.
That's
or
it.
like as an artist. "Oh, that's an amazing tattoo. Thank you."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's instead of being like, take that compliment, take that win, dude.
We've got to work on that,
We
don't we?
do. We do. We have to start celebrating the win. Because listen, man, the war is far from over. Like, as long as you are breathing, as long as you are living and doing everything, the war is on. right?
Yep.
The war is life. And it's not really a war, but it's a battle, right?
Battle.
It's a war.
Yeah.
So why not fucking celebrate the win, dude? You know, like the war wasn't the battle was not the war was not won with one battle, one fight. It was won over many, many battles, dude.
I've just
And-
come up with a great product thing. We're going to develop this. It's going to be the high fiver. It is just
Hell
a
yeah.
high five hand that you can put somewhere. It's almost like, like a punching bag type thing that sits there
Yeah.
on a string
Yeah.
or on a spring type thing. You can suction cup it to your desk.
Mhm.
It's the high fiver.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a hand. So when you shut your door behind you and nobody's watching, hell yeah. And you high five.
Absolutely. So
the
okay,
high
so
five.
there is this exercise, and my wife told me about it, and so I love the idea. I think it's great, and I'm on board 100%. The mirror, they say high five yourself in the mirror.
Oh,
Every
yeah?
time you see yourself in the mirror, give yourself a high five, because who doesn't like a high five?
Dude, I love high five.
Who doesn't make
a fist
right?
bump?
Right? Who
High
doesn't
fives,
feel good
fist
after a
bumps.
high five, bro?
Dude, it's a great feeling.
It is. It is. And why not high five yourself? Because you're awesome. We don't give ourselves enough credit for being amazing, dude.
We
You
need
know? We don't.
we need more of it.
We do.
We could not only have the high fiver, but the fist bumper.
Dude.
All of 'em.
Absolutely, man.
So I'm gonna get to
Absolutely.
work on that
Yeah.
later today. I
Hell
know
yeah.
some people.
Awesome. Yeah, dude.
And we're gonna share in it.
All right, dude. I'm down,
'Cause
man.
without this conversation, that idea wouldn't have come into my mind.
Right?
You know. I
And
guess-
dude, and that's my thing, man. Since I came back, like I want to be a serial entrepreneur. Like I
love
don't
it.
just want to be a part of the community and help the community. I want to put my money where my mouth is. Like I want to be able to financially do what I'm talking about doing. Like I said, there's some amazing things that I can't wait to do here in Hartford City for the veterans, for the first responders, the police officers and firefighters,
dude, there's
and the
such an
paramedics,
opportunity here.
you know. And I have, when I left Hartford City, let's just start with this. I was not a fan of cops. I did not like them. Like I had nothing nice to say about them. And for years, you know, like I talked very, very poorly about police officers because my initial experience with police was small town. And so like there's nothing to do in a small town, so they're always watching. And everybody knows everybody's business.
True.
So you're always, and if you're being a little if you're being a little dirtbag teenager, you're always looking over your shoulder, right? Because
Right.
you're doing dirtbag stuff. And if you weren't doing dirtbag stuff, you wouldn't be looking over your shoulder being paranoid, right?
So true.
And exactly. And listen, man, I'm not trying to say that I was some kind of a golden child. I just didn't get caught. I
Bingo.
was one of the lucky ones. And now you can't mess around. You can't experiment because, you know, fentanyl, and it's killing people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And there's
So
video everywhere.
we were some of the lucky ones
We
that were
were.
able to still experiment and figure out who we were. And
Absolutely.
bullying wasn't like so chastised that you know, it's like we knew who we were. You know, we got beat up a couple
That's right.
times. We got
That's right.
we got picked on, and you picked yourself up by your bootstraps. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? But
Man.
I'm kind of getting off subject.
No, you're not.
but,
It all makes sense. You know, those guys that the older guys that picked on us, that made us feel shitty, that's the reason.
they empowered you.
Oh man.
I'm empowered, dude.
There was no way I wasn't going to overcome that. Like I was
Absolutely.
going to make sure, you know? And I hope I wasn't, I'm sure I was at some point a bully to someone else.
we were all
what I
bullied
mean?
at some point, right?
I can remember going up to a lunch table when I was a senior in high school and being a jerk,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
scaring the shit out of some freshman and, you know, whatever. I hope it wasn't life impacting, and I apologize for it publicly right here and now. If I did that to you, I am truly sorry. Because I've seen that impact as a teacher and an administrator.
Yeah.
I've seen what it does to kids. I've seen
Yeah.
like I've watched that evolution of a kid from point A to point B, and
Yeah.
it's ugly, man.
It is, dude. And you know what? Like, I'm going to take the opportunity right now to say, anybody out there in Hartford City or anywhere that I've ever hurt your feelings or did you dirty, like, this is a real, truly sincere apology, and I am forever sorry for making you feel some kind of way or hurting you in some way, physically or emotionally or mentally. And this is an apology that on the street I would give you.
Yeah.
I'm not the same
Yeah.
person that I was when I left here. I'm such a different person. Like I said, I never want to ever be the reason again that somebody doesn't think something's fun, doesn't enjoy dressing a certain kind of way, doesn't enjoy being who they are, because I'm the first person to say, be who you want to be. Like, at the tattoo shop just a couple weeks ago, there was this dude, and I'm just Sonny, man. I just kind of like float around, like a flame, or I'm kind of like water, like
Sure.
whatever vessel I, come up to, I kind of feel that shape, and and like I know that I do, and I'm
Yeah.
not, I wouldn't call myself a chameleon because I'm a real person,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I'm like a flame, or I'm like water, dude. I'm easy, right? And I am who I am unapologetically, right? And so this dude, he's in the shop, and he'd only met me like once before. And I'm just kind of like bouncing around, just being me, and just kind of having a good time. I sing, and just I have a great time,
I
like
feel it.
my atmosphere is like, it's an empowering, friendly, grateful, happy place, right? And he's all like, dude, you're fucking crazy. He was like, you're acting the way I want to act right now. And I was like, bro, I just got to be who I am,
That's right.
And it made me feel so good. At first, I was kind of taken aback. Like, I'm crazy. All right. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm crazy. Everybody's
Okay.
crazy.
That's okay.
But then he was like, it wasn't that he thought I was crazy.
Right.
He wasn't able to articulate in words properly, because words
Matter.
Words fail to express a lot of things, that emotions that you can never touch with an emotion, right? And so that was his way of telling me that, and that's why I had to reiterate, like, you're acting the way that I wish I could act all the time. And dude,
Why can't you?
why can't you, man?
Why
Like, there's
not?
nothing wrong with being happy. There's nothing wrong with filling a room with light, because you are happy to be who you are, man. You said this earlier. Sometimes you got to be selfish. People take that the wrong way,
Sure they
because
do.
words have been misused. But selfish, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to be selfish and care enough about yourself
There,
so that you can love yourself, so that you can forgive yourself, so that you can know who you are unapologetically, right?
do you think we
And
turned self-love into a selfish act?
I think, no, I think that people are myopically selfish, which means they only focus on them.
Ooh,
It's okay.
that's
It's
interesting.
okay to be selfish, but when you turn it into a myopic thing where it's just me, 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 and nobody else matters, that's not how life is. That's not the way it really works. And when you do that, you close yourself off to so many other opportunities that the universe, that God, that you're offered every day. But you can't see it because you're so caught up in you that you don't care about what else is happening around you that could totally benefit you and make your life better. So it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to take some time to know who you are,
Yes.
to be alone, to be okay with the quiet, because
And that's tough.
it is
when you're
hard,
us,
dude.
the quiet is tough when you're us, because I demand a lot of attention. I know who I am, and you're the same way. I know who I am. I need people to give me energy. Others need alone time to have energy. I find myself alone, and I it gets ugly. Like I can be very ugly with myself in that alone time.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So
And I know I've got
when,
to get better at it.
right.
So I recognize it.
Yeah. When you do that, it goes back to that whole negative self speak,
Sure.
like speak kindly to yourself, because when the heart and mind becomes one, the house is unstoppable, dude. Like, because heart and brain coherence is real. It is
100%.
I believe it like the gospel, bro. Like, the Heart and Brain Institute have found that you have the same synaptic sequences and network in your heart that you do in your brain. So when you have a gut feeling, it's not just your gut;
Yeah.
it's your heart telling you. It's you're thinking
They're
with this
communicating.
brain.
Yeah.
We have two brains.
Yeah.
We have our head, we have it up here, and we have it in our heart. And when your heart brain is speaking to you, it's important to listen, because you're not using this brain anymore. You are using your spiritual brain, but it's also communicating with your brain. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's where they say, like, your conscience, right? That voice in the back of your head. It's not. It's your two brains talking to each other. Because one is very like like meticulous, and like it's a computer. This one here is very emotional. Is
Right.
a very real part of your soul.
Yeah.
And so they talk to each other. They found the neural it's the same neural networking.
They've talked about that with heartstrings. I've heard
Crazy,
that
dude.
conversation, you're pulling on my heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing.
Mhm.
Those things do exist. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. But I definitely need people, and you're talking about people calling you out and say, hey, you're kind of crazy, man. You're acting the way I want to. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
We have to seek out that happiness. I was watching a movie last night, and it was the longest. Oh man, The Long Game. It's a movie about some Hispanic kids in Texas in the
Mhm.
50s that want to play golf. They can't go to the golf clubs because of them
The
being
racial situation.
yeah. And so, but the principal that was at this high school where it all happened, he would stare at the kids as they walked by, and he would look at the other guy that was in the movie, and he'd be like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to smile at the kids." And I'm like, I was definitely not that principal. I was a smiler. I was a relationship builder, and I wanted people to see that you can be happy in this life. You can be successful and happy, and still act happy in any environment. I don't know what has happened to where, and there are people that are just serious people,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate that. I'm
Yeah.
thankful. I'm thankful
Absolutely.
there are serious people out there.
Contrast.
Yeah, 100%. And but I'm a happy person. I like to smile. I like to laugh. I like to share stories
Mm-hmm.
and build relationships in that way. And I've found through the same type of journey
Mm-hmm.
that I can do all that. It's okay. I've given myself the okay to do it. Where I wonder if some other people are worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not judging someone else's decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I worry about that sometimes too. I think I'm
Yeah.
a very overthinker,
Mm-hmm.
um, and there are times when I'm like, whoa, I don't need to be judgmental about somebody
Right.
else's decisions,
Yeah.
and I think that gets us in trouble
Mm-hmm.
when we start worrying about, well, that other
We
person.
put a condition on it.
That's it. That's a great word for it.
We put okay, so the greatest thing that was ever, like, unconditional, right? So unconditional love, unconditional anything. Like, um if we all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all say I love you, but we put a condition on that love, right? Even with our kids, even though like most parents, like, there's like, no matter what my kid could do, like, there's nothing that my kid could do, but there may be something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we put conditions on things, and then when they don't meet that parameter of condition, it's like the
Right.
gloves are off, dude.
Dr. Phil calls them qualifiers. Stop putting qualifiers in everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's okay, but, or, well, if, I'm okay with that if, that's a qualifier. And I remember I was, man, I was doing a lot of Dr. Philisms for a while. That was my Instagram feed. When I would just put out Dr. Philisms when I first got my Instagram feed, and then it became Bob Ross stuff. Now I don't really do anything. I've kind of gotten away from just posting anything,
Yeah.
which I don't know it's good or bad. I'm just out of it for now. But
Yeah.
Dr. Philisms became a big one for me. But I would always I would always talk about qualifiers with kids when I'd have them in for discipline.
Mm-hmm.
That's a qualifier, man. We can't have a qualifier. Let's just look at it and allow other people to be other people,
Mm-hmm.
rather than putting a qualification on. I will if.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I I'll stop doing that if. Well, if you know whatever you're doing is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
why is there an if attached to it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Why are you putting a condition on it?
Right. I'll
Yeah.
stop being a dick if that person stops. Being a dick is wrong.
Mhm.
Just stop being a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be that way. We put qualifiers on those things,
Absolutely.
conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're human conditions.
They are
right?
human conditions.
So like uh yeah, it's different. It's
and cultural conditions.
yeah, absolutely.
You've been around, you've seen some different,
Mhm.
different areas and how people interact. And, I don't know where all you were, but I'd like to find out. I'd love to get into that conversation. But, but you get to see different qualifiers culturally too.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh yeah.
one of the things, speaking of tattoos, when my daughter came home with her first tattoo, my and I won't say just Jennifer's, because it was a little bit of a concern of mine too, but not a big one for me. Where is it? And I've let go of that. It means nothing to me. Boy, we have grown so much as a culture.
Absolutely.
When we were kids,
It was taboo.
oh man, you had to be a biker and
Sailor,
yeah,
drug dealer,
had to be.
yeah, like some kind of military.
Oh my God,
Like
what happened to
yeah,
him?
you were a dirtbag.
Right.
Yeah.
It was subculture.
Anybody that was, it's only been legal for 10 years in Indiana.
Tattooing is that it?
Yeah.
Dude, I remember everybody going to Ohio to get tattoos.
Well, and to Muncie, like, like I've been tattooing for 23 years, bro.
Jesus.
And it's only been legal for 10 years here in Indiana.
Wow.
I thought it was longer than that. And I looked it up because I was having a conversation with somebody at the shop. 10 years
Wow.
legal. So, yeah.
So what got you? We got to have that conversation.
Okay. What do you want to know?
What led you to be interested in tattoos for one, and then does that lead to I want to be a tattoo artist, or was it reversed?
So
I guess they could be hand in hand.
I wanted to be a tattoo artist. Okay, let me start over. When I was first introduced to tattooing, my cousin was he bought this tattoo kit, the Spalding Rogers tattoo kit, off of this guy that was quitting, and became the local scratcher, among a few others, right? And really, he never tattooed on anybody but himself, but he fucked himself up pretty good. Like, he would have been one of those dudes that would have ended up being blacked out because of his work was just awful, and then he probably would have done something really sick over the blackout, right? Because the blackout tattoos are cool now. Like,
right.
After a couple of years, you can start putting new black or white, and it creates like just a black background, So anyway, we went to, I believe it was Ground Zero.
Okay.
And there was nobody in there except for an apprentice. And I was 15. I think my cousin was 16. And we walked into the shop, and there's some music playing, but the apprentice is just sitting on the couch working on artwork. And we were like, "Where is everybody?" They were like, "Oh, they're out and about, doing what tattoo artists do or whatever, And we were like, "Okay." And so we kind of like hung out, talked to the dude for 10 or 15 minutes. I think my cousin was trying to buy some supplies or some shit,
Okay.
some needles or some ink or I don't know. And we leave, and I'm like, "That looks terrible. That looks boring as shit. I don't think I want any part of that, right?" Because I thought that I did, like my cousin got his machine. I'm like, "That's cool." And I was an artist, so I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
it's permanent art, right?" And so it was a couple years later. I was friends with Lee Hausman,
Yeah.
and we were. It was my first real band that I was in. It was called Dyer's Eve, and it was John Wilson, um, Danny Dunn. Oh, I can't think. Chad Finch was our bass player, I think, and Lee. And so Danny and I were dual singers, and it was pretty much a cover band for the most part. We started working on our own material, but shortly after that, Lee and I were riding around Hartford City, and we were up at Packasack, and we were riding on our bikes, and this dude pulls up, and he's all like, "Hey," he's all like, "I got an opportunity for you. Come work at this shop in Marion called Wishmaster." And so that was pretty much my in right there, I was still in high school. I was maybe 16 at this point, and I was, hanging out with Lee, and he ended up moving to Marion. So I would go over there and hang out, and he lived right by the shop. So we were just getting hammered down, after hours, smoking, drinking, doing whatever. And I was a teenager, 16. So I was loving it. I was partying like a rock star with all these tattoo artists.
Right.
And I was like, "This is fun. I think I might want to do it." Right. Like it's a good way to make money, and it's a good way to meet women, So like, I'm like, money, women, like right up my alley as
Right.
as an 18-year-old, right? 17, 18-year-old. And so I think I was 19, and my teacher, Rodney, asked me if I wanted to learn how to tattoo. And I was like, yeah. I was always there drawing and stuff. Like,
Sure.
I'd be hanging out during the day just sketching and doodling. And I was always watching over his shoulder. And I was like, "Yeah, man, I'd love to learn how to tattoo, but I'm a poor kid. I ain't got no money." And I knew at this point that it was going to cost money. And so uh, he's all like, "We'll work it out another way." Little did I know it was going to be my ass beat all the fucking time. But literally, like, it was a rough apprenticeship, man. He beat me up, like, physically, beat me up mentally and emotionally. And when it was all said and done, I ended up fighting him, ended up kicking his ass and leaving, and I was done with it. And I went on to do my own thing with another guy. His name's Gary Hovis. We're still friends. He's got a shop over in Kokomo. I think it's called Altered Image. He keeps changing the name, so I can't remember what the name is. But we're like really close. One of the people that I was brought in with, I thought was amazing, and now I'm better than he is. And now we talk, and he gets advice from me, and like, it's great. It's a flip flop sort of relationship because I continue my education far beyond. I'm nationwide.
Right.
So. But we did something and it didn't really work out. And then so I moved on, went back to Marion, worked there for just a little bit. Then I went to Muncie, worked at Dragon Slayer for a little bit. And then I did some dumb shit. I was tattooing out of the house and lost my job, pissed off the owner, and so he fired me. And so after that, I went to Portland and struggled hard. And at this point, I had a kid. And so like, I'm at this crossroads, right? I'm broke. I'm working at this shop that ain't making any money. And I'm at a gas station. I'm about 30 minutes from my house. I need gas. I smoked cigarettes at the time. And my daughter needed like milk and diapers or whatever, And I didn't have anything, dude. I'm like, something's got to give. Like rock bottom. Like, like like Deadpool says, bro, rock meet bottom, dude. And I literally like hit the rock and then went deeper, you know? And it was like the next day or two, I was like, I got to do something. And so I got online and I found this shop in Fayetteville, North Carolina that was looking for guest artists and things like that. And I looked at their page and I wasn't really impressed, but it was this website called um, Ink Nation, and it was a platform for tattoo artists to and body piercers to share work and find jobs and guest spots. And the owner hit me up the next day like, oh, we saw you were on our page, we really like your work, da 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 da. And her brother was the owner and the artist, and she's like, my brother doesn't really tattoo anymore, he has PTSD really bad from being in the army. But we have these two artists that are here from Ohio. They're really good, and they just recently relocated because they're making so much money. And I was like, okay, well, let's do this, right? So I set up a 12-day trip. 4 days into my trip, the dude that I'm working for in Portland texts me. He said, you're fired. Come get your stuff. It'll be all boxed up when you leave or when you get back from your trip. And so I call him. I'm like, yo, bro, what's going on? Like, what? I'm fired? Like, I mean, I read the message, but what happened? He's like, it's just not working out. I got this dude a job, and he ended up taking my place. So he pretty much just pushed me out, because I wasn't just gonna be his like whipping dog, and I wasn't gonna do what he wanted me to do. I had to travel because I was literally not making any money, and like, what am I gonna do? I had custody of my daughter, and like it was scary, right?
Sure.
And so I'm like, well, bro, I'm like, that sucks. I'll come get my stuff. And he's like, so how you doing out there? How you doing on the trip? And I was like, man, I shouldn't have came. It's a bust. Like it was a poor decision. And he was like, oh man, am I gonna be able to get refunded on some of the supplies that you took? And I was like, and when I first started working there, he was like, I'll never take anything from you. He's like, I provide everything, and if you leave with something, then it's yours. I'm not gonna take anything from you, because I'd had some dirty stuff happen to me. Like, this is yours, and then they fired me and they took it. Like, it's not mine then,
Right.
You should have said, this is ours, you can use it. Like,
Right.
there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
And words matter once again.
That's right.
And so I was like, dude, I don't have anything for you, and I'm not gonna give you the supplies that I have to work. Like, you told me you'd never Indian give me something. He's like, oh yeah, but like, you're out of state and this and that. I'm like, nah, bro. Like, whatever. Like, so I end up moving. I go inside. I end up going inside and telling the owners of the shop there in North Carolina that I got fired. And they're like, well, you're hired. And so I had to figure out how to make that happen. And so I did. And 7 months later, I had my daughter there with me, and all along, going back and forth all this time, right? And then I met my wife in North Carolina. I did a tattoo on her, and she's from the West Coast. She was in Alaska. She moved there after high school, where her grandfather lives, and she had a bad relationship. And her sister's like, "Come here. I need a nanny. I just had a kid," and that's how we met. And so, skip forward, moved to Arizona. Only there for about 10 months or so. And I just wasn't a desert person. Like, gotta get out of here. And then I moved to California. And like I said, for a long time, I wasn't a fan of cops, okay? But once I got out of the small town, I realized that cops weren't bad. I realized that they weren't just, maybe they were picking on me in the small town. Yeah, but I was giving them good reason, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But cops never messed with me after this, The only time that I ever had a real run-in with a cop in North Carolina was I got robbed at gunpoint by this dude. I was sitting in a car, and he walks up around the back side of the car, and he points like a 357 or a 38 in my face, and it was, I could see in the cylinder it was fully loaded. I'm like, okay. Stole all my money, everything, my wallet, my cell phone, like everything. I lost my ID, my social security card, and all kinds of stuff, Um, and I was smoking weed, so I didn't report it. Right.
Right.
I went the next day and reported it, and I told the cop, and the dude ripped my pants, and I was commando, so my ass was hanging out. So I was like, I'm going home. The police station, I could literally see it from where I got robbed, and it was in a gas station, and it was lit up like daylight. Right. I could see the gas station from where I sat. So the next day, first thing in the morning, I go in, make the report, and they literally treat me like I did something wrong. I didn't tell them I was smoking, but I was like, I was sitting in the gas station attendant's car smoking a cigarette, just having a conversation, right? And they treated me like I was a criminal, and I was like, man, it just made me feel even more some kind of way, right, about cops. And so, like I said, I spoke badly about cops all the time. And one day, my son was all like, he was a little kid. He was all like, "Oh, it's a cop. He's bad. I'll never get a cop. Like I'll never call a cop or anything like that." And my wife's like, "Hey, you got to stop. Like cops aren't bad. Like they don't." Like I said, the only run-in that I really had was that. You treated me like a criminal, and I got robbed, so I felt some kind of way, right?
Right.
And so she's like, "You have to stop talking about cops that way, because what if something happens to me or him, or like he needs a cop? Like he's not gonna go to a cop. He's gonna be afraid." And I was like, "You're right." And I had to have a real come to Jesus moment with myself about this hate that I had for cops that stemmed from Hartford City, when it had nothing to do with North Carolina, right? My wife only got pulled over once in North Carolina the whole time we were there, and it was a mistake that the DMV had made. So, like, they never messed with us, right? So I'm like, yeah, dude, you need to calm down. And then, so like I said, we moved out to Arizona and then to California. And once I got to California, I something had to change, right? Like there had to be more of a purpose than just tattooing. And it was long past the whole money and women thing, right? I'm married at this point. So I'm like, there has to be a better purpose. And I started doing this thing, and I'm not finished with it. It's still something that's ongoing, but I've been really busy. It's called the Painted Flag Project. And what I do is I take decommissioned American flags and I paint something on that flag. Like I did one for Derek Jones when he did his first album, and it's like a silhouette of him sitting there, and it's painted on the flag. But I want to do it for veterans and first responders and family members of veterans and first responders. And the money that I make off of that, I want to donate at least like a portion of it. I haven't decided how much yet, to a veteran nonprofit organization. And the one that I'm going to use is Warfighter Overwatch, which is my best friend, him and his wife's nonprofit organization in California. And they get veterans and first responders together, and they do skill building and exercises, and they raise awareness for suicide, and they try to do all kinds of great things to prevent suicide. They have a suicide awareness gala every year, like right around 9/11. They're amazing people, and so that's who I'm going to end up, donating that to. But what I want to do is I want to gear it towards veterans and first responders, and I want to put a piece of history on that flag.
Sure.
Maybe not like American history, but a part of their history.
Something that matters to that person.
Absolutely. Something that pertains, something personally to them, and only make it available to them and family members, and then I want to donate to that. But that's where I first, outside of both my brothers being in the military, that's where I first decided that I wanted to do something different. you know, because when I was in Fayetteville, I was at the 80, I was right there off Fort Bragg,
Okay.
82nd Airborne, which it's renamed now. I don't remember what it is, but um, so that was really my first introduction to military, and I love those guys. The 82nd Airborne are crazy, you know, a bunch of young ass kids who jump out of perfectly working airplanes with, you know, anywhere from 30 to 70 pounds attached to them,
man.
just plummet
Right.
to the ground like a rock. And so that painted flag situation got me introduced to a man named David Kang, who started Kinetic Ink Tattoo Company, former 2nd Battalion Ranger, and currently works for SAC Fire. So that it was a tattoo shop geared specifically to cater to military veterans and first responders.
Okay.
And I absolutely fell in love with police officers and firefighters, and even and realized even more so that police officers are people just like you and me. You know, like they have to make some really hard decisions sometimes. They have to make some last minute decisions for people that don't care about them, for people who want them dead a lot of times, you know?
Sure.
And I think it's just a much needed shift, because without police officers, without first responders, without the military to keep our borders safe, to keep our country safe, to keep our cities, our streets safe, our families, we'd be a lot worse for wear.
Oh, brother.
You know? And they keep talking about defund. And and they literally have these officers cuffed. You know, it's the catch and release.
Right.
Catch them, let them go, fine them. We'll get the money that way. You know, that's a slap on the wrist, man. Like, these people aren't being held accountable for anything that they're doing, and they still expect these police officers to make these decisions, and you want to hold them to a higher standard, but you're literally cuffing them, and you're not letting them do their job. They're literally being scrutinized, everything that they do. And I am a firm believer that we cannot let the actions of the few outweigh the actions of the many, the great actions of the many, because there are some amazing first responders out there, man. There was an officer that just lost his life in Vacaville, California. A driver hit him, and it's such a tragedy, man. You know, like any loss of life is a tragedy.
Right.
You know, the assassination attempt against Trump. You know, you didn't kill him, but you killed an innocent man. You took a man away from his daughters and his wife, a firefighter, a first responder, somebody that keeps you safe, somebody that probably puts your house out at some point, or ran a call on your nana, or did something to save you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, these are the people that, it's not that they matter more than we do, but we have to understand that they make some hard decisions. They see hard things, and it changes you.
You know, I was thinking about this, and the selfishness piece came back right there, talking about someone's selfish act that impacted the lives of so many more. But you're right. You know, we say thank you for your service to veterans all the
Every
time.
time I see one, bro, I do.
And I've gotten to the point to where I feel it's necessary to not only say it to certain military veterans, but to
First responders,
to
absolutely,
teachers, to anyone that is doing public service at this point. If you're a public servant, you're giving up so much of your life. A mayor of a town, just watch what happens to a mayor of any city, and they just get ripped apart. They give up their lives for the next so many years. Is it the same? No, it's not on the same level as a police officer going out and literally putting their life on the line.
right?
But my wife's a nurse. She's putting her life on the line.
Absolutely,
Every time she gets out
frontline
there.
worker, baby.
And so I think
Thank you.
there's like so many pieces of me that's going, God, anybody that works with the public right now, someone that's a civil servant in any way, shape, or form, We need to thank them for their service as
Dude,
well.
absolutely, man. I was just at Proof's barbershop. Got my hair cut by
I
Justin.
love that place.
He's the beast, dude. I love him. We've been friends since we were kids, and I was leaving. He was getting ready to tattoo on this firefighter, and he said something about firefighting, something about an academy. I can't remember. He was talking about police academy too, but he's in the first responder field. I was like, "You say you're a firefighter?" He's like, "Yeah." And I reached up and shook his hand and said, "Thank you for your service." And he's like, he's a young kid, like maybe 18, 19 years old,
Yeah.
20 maybe tops. And he's like, "I don't know what to say to you." And I was like, "You don't have to say anything, bro.
Say you're welcome.
I appreciate it. You don't even have to say you're welcome.
Hey, you're welcome.
I don't care, man."
Gotcha.
You know, but a lot of the, and that's the thing, okay? Like, first, take a compliment. Like
That's
those
it.
guys,
That's
they're some of the greatest examples of
It's
a lot of them have a hard time taking a compliment, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I've had conversation because for the past almost 17 years now, I've tattooed on military and some sort of first responder, and I've talked to them about it. You know, thank you for your service.
Yeah, you
You
get
know,
time.
how does that make you? All of them are like, it makes me feel weird.
Really?
Like, why, bro? You're doing something that a lot of people are terrified to do.
Yeah.
You know, and then or they'll be like, "Well, I don't know what to say," and just like you just said, thank you. All you have to say is thank you. But now I don't even say that. I just say, listen, like, I'm not telling you thank you for your service because I want a pat on my back.
Right.
I'm telling you thank you for your service because I genuinely appreciate what you do for our community, and you'll never have to thank me for the job that you do. You're such a selfless person, you know?
Here's what I wonder. God, this is going to get into such a bigger conversation, and I can't let it because I do have some things I got to
Okay.
get done.
All right.
But when does Gen X finally take our seat at the table? We haven't had a Gen X president. It's time. We are in between some really interesting groups of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have an appreciation for what is happening around us. Not that other generations don't, but I think we're open-minded enough to where we can look past so many flaws of this, so many flaws of that, to see the good. Where I don't know that the generation before us can. Some can. I'm not like putting everybody in that bucket.
It's old blood, man. They're the ones that followed what their parents said without question.
Man, and I know I sure as hell did. I watched.
You're Gen X, Gen Y. What is Gen Y? What do they call them? What do they call the Gen Y?
I don't.
Well, I'm
terrible at that game.
I'm Gen Y, right? I'm eight. My birthday was 82, so I'm like one of the first.
You're cusp.
Yeah. So I'm still like right there in that Gen X sort of mentality and upbringing, right? But and it started with Gen X, but Generation Y, like my generation, you know, you're right at the end of Gen X too, you know, but Generation Y, and that's where that changeover started happening. Was right there in your age, because how old are you?
I'm 50.
Okay, I'm 42. So right there in between those, like, kind of 7-8 years, right? Things started being slightly different.
Yes, they did.
We started questioning what our parents were telling us that was solid gospel, the word, when they were coming up. But any of us who have eyes that can see and a brain that can think, can we really just ingest the same old shit that's been shoved down people's throats for all these years? Can we
just
not be a free thinker and say, you know what? That's wrong. that's still part of the generation that condoned some of this terrible first of all, that we're holding on to that we need to let go of. Racism is real. It's out there. Racism is just hate
and ignorance.
And I heard one of the greatest things that I heard the other day was, we're all a different shade of brown.
Yeah, different shade of different amounts of melanin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was the greatest thing that I ever heard, because the dude was like, light brown man, medium brown man,
right.
dark brown man. He's all like, we're all different shades of brown. He's like, we all want to talk about, I hate this brown, or I hate that brown, or I hate this color. Like, we are literally all a different shade of brown. We all come from the same place, man. Like until we can realize that was a stage of our life that was wrong, and we need to move past it, because we're better than that now.
We are better than that.
And they want to keep talking about, reverse racism. Racism is racism. There isn't an opposite side of racism. Hate is hate, man.
Yeah, bigotry is bigotry. I don't see it as one is different than the other. Bigotry is bigotry.
We are one people.
Yeah.
Like the greatest example of that is like trees, roots, mushrooms. Like, they're all interconnected by a web, and we are all connected by a web. Okay. It is the ether. It is the ethereal that fills the space around us. The Egyptians used to call the people that tapped into that netters. Like, there is a neural network that exists in the electromagnetic field around us. That is what the electromagnetic field is. And we're all connected to it. So we can all try and say we're all different, we want different things, but we don't. We all want the same thing. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel like we matter. We all want to feel like the person in charge cares enough about us to keep us from, like, I'm not a sheep. If I see a bunch of sheep running off a cliff, I'm not going to do it, because I think that's the thing to do. Yeah. I'm going to be like, y'all are some dumb sheep.
I'm not good at that.
I'm not following the herd, dude.
No. I'm not good at that game.
And the one thing that people have forgotten, it doesn't matter what tone of melanin is in your skin. It doesn't matter. Alone, we're weak. We can be broken. But the greatest example ever is, you put a bundle of sticks together and you put a piece of wood right in the middle of those bundle of sticks. You try and break that. You can't break it, dude. Right. And if you can, it's going to take a great feat to break that bundle of sticks. And we are the bundle of sticks. And the problem is they keep taking a stick out. They keep separating us. They keep pulling us farther and farther apart so that they can break us one at a time.
Yep.
Until they break it all. But if we all come together and understand that we are all on the same common ground, and we all want the same thing at the end of the day, we're a whole lot closer than media wants us to believe. We're a whole lot closer than social media wants us to believe. They are trying to spin a scenario like, dude,
they know what sells. They know what sells.
And they're selling the fear, dude.
Yeah. They know what's going to get us to come back.
They sell the fear.
Unfortunately, we are still wired to go back to the negative.
Like you said, the fail videos.
Yeah.
What a great analogy that was, bro. That is the greatest thing that I think that I've ever heard. Like, we all love, no, seriously, we all love fail videos, right? We all love watching somebody fail, but we all love watching somebody win too.
Oh, so much better.
It is. And when we're laughing and cheering, we're laughing and cheering with that person. And that resonates, dude. You know, it really, really does. And that is one of the greatest analogies that I think I've ever heard, so that people can really understand it. Sink your teeth into it, wrap your arms around it, give it a big fucking hug, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's celebrate the win.
Let's celebrate the
Let's
win.
start watching win videos.
That's it.
Let's start practicing winning. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, don't you feel better when you win versus when you lose? And even if you lose, it's not a loss if you're gonna go back at it again.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Getting back up.
yeah,
Back
you
up.
learn from it, and that's my thing. Like, people ask me, they're like, so how do you feel about that experience? Was that a bad experience? And I'm like, well, first of all, back in the day, I would have said, yeah, it was a terrible experience.
Right. Right.
But I've been through some really, really traumatic, terrible things. Like I said, things that would break people, things that would break a lot of people. Not everyone,
Sure.
you know, but things that would break most people, right? And I don't look at it from that perspective anymore. I look at it as an experience. I learned something.
That's right.
It was a learning experience. And what did it teach me? It taught me contrast that I would not know had I not experienced it. Riddle me this. How can you ever experience happiness and love if you've never really experienced pain and loss?
Right.
I mean, you can,
Right.
but can you fully understand it? Can you truly, fully embrace what love means, what it means to have something that, you know what I mean? If you've never had something taken from you, then you, yeah, oh, I love this. It's greatest. But people like that, they go from the, like, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna find happiness in this, and then
That felt
they
good.
do. They find happiness in it, but only for a short time. And then so they move to the next thing.
That's right.
And they move to the next thing.
Well, that sounds
And-
really familiar, doesn't it?
And that's what I was talking about.
That's
you
a
know?
drug addict.
Oh, well, it is. It is.
That's
but
a dopamine addict
it's
right there.
addiction,
Yeah.
you know, because addiction just doesn't have to come into drugs.
Yeah.
But what you're addicted to is that feeling. And the sad thing is there's really nothing wrong with that feeling. It's a great feeling, but you're finding the feeling in the wrong place.
Sure.
Like you said earlier, you find great energy in being around other people. But when you're by yourself, you beat yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Silence kills you. You know, like you probably have moments where you like question everything that you've ever done, and are you good enough? Are you worthy enough for any of the things that you have?
All of that.
And you shouldn't. I mean, yeah, you can think that way, but you should shut that down and fill that with every time you say something negative to yourself, say no and say something positive to
Sure.
yourself, because happiness doesn't come from anyone. And if you're putting your happiness on someone or something, you're always going to be let down.
Yep.
You know? But if you find happiness inside you, then somebody else's happiness becomes unconditional.
That's
Your
right.
happiness isn't conditional to
That's it.
you being here or you being here. You know, it's, I have found happiness in me. And because I found happiness in me, I don't need you to provide that happiness for me. And now I can just appreciate you for who you are, no matter who you are or where you are in your journey.
As you were talking through that, I was like self-analyzing, and I can remember a day when I left here, and it had been a couple days where I'd worked from home and did a lot of work right here in this room. And I got out and I got my truck, and by the time I got to the stop sign out here to get on the main road, I was like, dude, stop. You're good. It's fine. And as you were going through that, I was like, man, what's the difference between me then, that day, and me prior to that? And all I could think was, dude, I spent 9 years as a teacher and, as an educator, And I was around kids all day that gave me belief.
And I'm sure you talked them up.
Oh,
right?
sure, but I, I'm a I firmly believe we're going to be okay. I looked around, and this is a little off, but
Our kids are different.
they are, but we're going to be okay.
I think so.
I feel
I believe.
really encouraged about, you were talking earlier just about being able to say, this is the way things were, but we can be better. And what I hear coming out of kids' voices, coming out of their mouths, are words of encouragement to their classmates, words of encouragement to other kids.
Mhm.
I don't hear a lot of negativity in real moments.
Mhm.
Whereas, I can remember some real negativity coming from friends of mine. I can remember a friend getting his ass
Family.
beat going down the street by his dad. And I'm sure that's still happening to people. I know it is. But I hear kids saying things, thinking deeper now, that I wouldn't have thought of that at 13.
There's a shift. There's a shift that's happened, and there's a reason that we're even still having this conversation. You're not like, oh man, Sonny, you're a little bit too woo woo for me. You're a little bit too much out there.
Might be surprised how woo
Oh.
chick is.
Well, I'm just saying, like like a lot of people, I firmly believe this, that an elevated soul won't entertain the subjects that we're talking about.
Yeah.
That you'll completely be like, no. And I know we haven't like went real deep, but even still, some of the stuff that
We're going to come back and go deep.
Okay. Some of the stuff that we've skimmed across is, the water.
Yeah.
We're right there.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a different dude, man, and the shift that I'm talking about, that our kids, it's a vibration, it's a resonant tone that is, vibrating throughout the world right now. There is a shift, and I'm proud to say that I feel that shift and I'm a part of it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm saying now I'm a light.
Yeah.
I am a way. I'm not the only light, and I'm not the only way, but I am a way, and I am a light, and I want my light I don't want my light to outshine anyone. I want my light to help illuminate people so that they can be the best version of themselves, because at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, in between, the only person that I'm in competition with is me. And I used to be in competition with everybody, and I would always feel like I fell short. But let me tell you something. Since I started holding myself accountable, since I don't play the blame game and I'm not a victim anymore, my life has changed so much, dude.
That whole accountability piece is so powerful. And I love that you said that. And
So many people don't have it anymore.
Right. And it's not accountability to somebody else. It's accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
You're talking about words. The words I say, I'm accountable to those.
Yeah.
That it does matter. The things that my actions do matter. And my own perception of me means so much more than someone else's. I'm not worried about what my aunts and uncles think anymore. I'm not worried about, and this comes out as so wrong. People like think of it as a very poor way of putting it. When I stopped caring about what my dad thought about me, my life got much easier. Because I quit having that someone looking over my shoulder that wasn't there really. I started thinking about how can I be the best version of myself instead of the best version of what he expected. And that changed things tremendously.
Yeah, man, that's our parents put like unrealistic expectations on us,
and as parents we know, like,
try not to, because we're aware
That's
of
right.
the expectations that our parents put on us. But even as a parent, I find myself putting unrealistic expectations on my kids sometimes.
It's hard not to. We care.
It is,
And it does come from a place of love.
and it also comes from a place of the past.
Sure.
Whereas
I've
our
done
parents wanted to just control every single thing, and just instead of just letting us figure it out on our own, which is why we were such rebels, because we couldn't do it anymore, man.
Yeah. Dude, how can people find you?
So you can find me on Facebook at Sonny_Batten. It's SONNY_BATTEN. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, both handles. I need to make a TikTok just for a new platform. Not other than
I've stayed away from it.
yeah. Well, I'm a tattoo artist, so I
Yeah,
need
you-
to,
yeah.
and I make a lot of reels, and
Yeah, you
so
do.
I've
I
gotten,
like it.
thank you. I've gotten a lot better at it. I had to have a real, let's say it, come to Jesus moment with myself about 7 months ago, 8 months ago, and like, look, dude, like you're a tattoo artist. You know, social media is your advertising platform. You're like, why aren't you utilizing it? And another artist that I worked with, like, dude, like you need to start doing this and this and this, and I did.
Yeah.
And I hated it at first. It was like pulling teeth, because like the whole reason that I didn't like social media was because there's so much negative stuff on there, and it was just no fun to, you know, get on there and just see all this negative vibration and feel all this negative hate and negative speak and all this just awful stuff. And so I decided that I was going to, you know, step it up from what this artist told me that I should do and take it to the next level. And I did. And I actually make my own memes now. Sometimes they're usually I'll put the credit to whoever it is, if it's there. But I do write myself sometimes. Like I have a book, and I write positive affirmations. And so there was this one just the other day, and I don't know who it was from, but it may have even been like word porn or anonymous, but it said, "We're all broken. That's how the light gets in." And I was like, that's like, I'm gonna do my own thing with this, right? And so I said, "We're all broken. That's how the light shines out." Because we are a light
Within.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not shining in.
Yeah.
The light is coming from us.
Yeah.
We're all a part of God. We're all closer to God than we can ever possibly imagine that we are.
Yeah.
You know, no matter what religion, race, creed, whatever it is that you are, like we are all God's children, you know? Like Jesus Christ wasn't the only one that was the son of God. We are all the sons and daughters of God. You know, a piece of God's light exists inside of all of us.
Yeah.
And that's, you won't convince me that that piece of light is not my soul.
I like it.
My soul is a part of God. And because that, you know, one day I'm going to go back to God,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to share the contrast that I learned here on earth, here in this realm with my creator, you know? God, I have a great relationship with God, dude. I love God. And it was funny because when I told people I found forgiveness, they're like, "What'd you find God?" I'm like, yeah, actually,
Yeah.
as hokey as you want to make it sound right now, I found God, and God and I have an amazing relationship, dude.
There are
And
times
I
I
don't
wonder.
fear God.
I wonder when it's all over, and he and I are having that conversation, and I'm just gonna look. Am I gonna look at him and go, "What'd you think about that?"
Bro,
You know,
I
can just see my smart ass saying something like that. You know, not, "Hey man, thanks for the ride, appreciate you." I'm sure I'll say something dumb like that too, but I'm sure I'm gonna be like, "What'd you think about that?"
bro, I had an out of body experience. Nothing drug related,
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. Stone sober, and I saw God.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience that I will never ever forget. If you want to hear about it, I'll tell you.
Let's hold that one.
Okay.
All right. 'Cause
Yeah.
I do have to go to work.
Okay.
I got to get back to work, but I have two,
Okay.
and I would love let's let's plan this so we can get back together.
Yeah.
And this will keep all my 6 listeners on edge.
Maybe we can get 6 more.
That's right. We'll get 6 more out of that.
Or
6.
even 1, dude. You know what I'm saying? It starts with 1, right?
Come up and see him at Journey North Tattoos.
Yeah.
Connect with him, get an appointment, get up there and get some work done. You know, I secretly I've had a whole tattoo thing planned for since I was probably 16 or 17 and just never did it. And partly for me, because I'm just too damn cheap.
Well, you know, tattoos are a luxury item.
Yeah,
They are expensive. But I'll tell you what, man, you find the right tattoo artist, dude, you will never be sorry, because once you look at tattoos as an investment, then like you're investing in your skin.
In yourself. Yeah.
And people
Some
usually do a better job of taking care of it when they're like,
Yeah.
you know what, this is like it's like a car. It's like a pair of shoes. It is.
Don't compare it to a car. Cars.
Well, I'm just saying, cars
Unless it's
don't
a
last,
muscle car or
shoes don't
something.
last, clothes don't last. Tattoos last for a long time.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it's an investment in your skin,
I like
in
it.
yourself. You know, so yeah, guys, come on up to 203 West Washington Street to Journey North Tattoo Company. Chad and I are always up. Well, I'm up there more than Chad is, but Chad works at another job. He does selking, and then every night he's in the shop. So dude's a go getter. I love Chad. Like, we go way back.
Yeah.
But I want to put a shout out. I haven't
Yeah.
done this yet.
Do it.
I've been planning on doing this. So what better way to do it than sitting here talking shit?
With all the 6 listeners.
Yeah. You know, so guys, hit that like button, subscribe, pass it around, let everybody know.
That was somebody hitting the like button right there.
Nice. Are we live?
We're not even live and they're hitting like buttons.
Oh, nice. Like,
Holy crap.
yeah, there you go.
We're at 8.
Got a couple more listeners. So I want to put a call out to all the veterans and first responders and nurses in Hartford City and the surrounding area in Indiana. Okay. Chad is fully on board with, you know, having it be a place where it's a safe place for first responders, especially police officers, but veterans as well, you know. Active duty, veterans, first responders, you know, everybody loves the veteran, right?
Mhm.
Everybody loves the soldier. Everybody loves the firefighter. You know, people don't necessarily hate medics, you know, but everybody hates police right now.
That's right.
Everybody hates cops.
What a shame.
So, and it is a shame, man, because like I said, we can't let the actions of the bad actions of the few
right.
outweigh the actions of the many. The great guys and gals that are out there doing the job, making the hard decisions. You know what I'm saying? And for that reason, guys, I just want you to know, man, I love you. I appreciate everything that you do. Thank you for your service. And you guys want to come to a drug-free environment where people love you for who you are and what you do and appreciate you. That's Journey North Tattoo Company. You know, Sonny and Chad, man, we love the veterans. The other night, actually, on the 13th, on that sad, fateful night, we had 2 cops in the shop, and they hung out. Like, I tattooed on one, and the other guy came in and hung out. And I told him, I was like, bro, it's great having you in here. I was like, you should come in here all the time. And he's like, don't tell me that. I will. Like, this place is for you, man. Like,
Yeah.
I want all you and all your boys in here, because you guys are people just like us, and you deserve to be treated like a person. Just because you wear a badge and a uniform and you uphold the law doesn't mean that, you know, people need to treat you badly or hate you, you know? So come to a place where people love you and appreciate you for what you do. You
I like it.
Because I do, man. I'd get up on the top of the building and shout it with a megaphone because, dude, even the courthouse, let me get up there. I'll get in there in Wheeler Park. And
I've been on top
scream
of
it.
that building.
Have you?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love
Yeah,
to go up
yeah.
in there,
Dude,
into
it's
the,
pretty cool.
into the bell tower.
Yeah.
I hear there's
Well,
a
not
bunch of,
on
like,
there.
signatures and stuff up in the bell tower of the courthouse. And,
Oh, there
like,
might be. Yeah.
like from
No, I
like,
haven't
the
been up
early
there.
1900s.
I'm talking about on top of the roof where you guys are at.
I've been up on top of another roof uptown, but
Mhm.
not that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Spent a lot of time up there. All right, brother. We got to go. We're going to get back together, though, soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, thanks,
dude.
everybody, for listening in. Hit that like, subscribe crap, whatever you're supposed to do. I'm not really good at any of that, but
Pound it.
Goodbye, everybody. That's it.
That was fun, man.
Oh my gosh. That went